A Nolan Wells bombshell report tonight. Does it reveal new witnesses?
Here's a recording of the call between Trey and Trakan Shepard's father.
Don't try and run now, your son is and he's about to get all the way. Don't run now, you guys are gonna get what the coming to you. I know he killed that little kid, man. You guys aren't. Your wife ain't racist.
How can the father of somebody who murdered another person go and try to receive donations using the name of the murder victim? You know what you've done. I'm 22 years old. I'm just a bit older than your son, Warren. I can't believe that I live in a world with people like you and your son. I can't believe that I live in a world with evil, racist, white people who then go and falsely claim that they praise God while living racist, evil, selfish, harmful lives while they take the lives of innocent people. God's light shines down for Nolan Xavier Wells. The truth will come out. And you are evil. You are evil to your root. You decide it. And I hope that you soon change, or that soon you face every pain that you've brought upon other people. I hope that your son faces that same pain, and the pain that he brought through his racist actions, and continues to bring through his racist actions. You have raised your son to be a racist, heartless person who has taken the life of another person. And God, I hope that you burn in hell for it.
Justice for Noah Wells, son for a son. Justice for Noah Wells, son for a son. Justice for Noah Wells, son for a son. Justice for Noah Wells, son for a son.
Justice for Nolan Wells. Justice for Nolan Wells, father of a murderer.
Not only has the timeline been analyzed by the Cajun Navy, the U.S. Cajun Navy, based on all sorts of statistical data, new photos are emerging. Take a look at this photo before we go to the Cajun Navy. Look at this. Check out what you're seeing. Look at all the boats surrounding where Nolan was. Leave up the photo out to Caitlin Becker, senior national correspondent, New York Post, star of New York Postcast, their new podcast. Caitlin, what are we seeing?
Well, what we're seeing here comes from this new report from the United Cajun Navy, and you're seeing several boats strung together. This is one of the first images that we've seen of this certain configuration of boats there. They're all identified, one of which was the boat that Nolan came out there on. There's several others kind of anchored with it and tied up, which begs the question of where was Nolan when this photo was taken, because it's unclear if he's actually in it. What time was this photo actually taken? So what you're seeing here is, as you said, a potential pool of witnesses.
Hey, Caitlin, look at this. There's boat number 1. There's boat X. There's boat number 2. There's boat number 3, and there's a boat from which the photo is taken. Now, look in the water. Much has been made. Nolan Wells was drinking. Okay, well, apparently everybody was. They all have containers, open containers in the water. Okay, as far as I know, that's not a felony. Boat number 1, full of people. Boat X, full of people. Boat number 2, full of people. Boat number 3, full of people. People on the boat from which the photo was taken. Some of these boats tied together. You know what that means in my world, Caitlin Becker, joining us in the New York Post? Let me see, Caitlin, please.
22 pages. That's the entire document, released to the public on August 3rd. Within 24 hours, it triggered 2 completely opposite national reactions. One broadcast treated it like the massive breakthrough everyone had been waiting for. Boats identified, people visible, and a pool of potential witnesses finally stepping into the light. Meanwhile, a live stream commentator scrolled through the exact same file, page by page, and called it a nothing burger. His words, not mine. He argued it proved nothing, changed nothing, and shouldn't have been published in the first place. Same document, same afternoon, two totally irreconcilable verdicts. So, we did the boring work. We actually read it. What we found is that the debate isn't really about what's in the document, it's about what people wanted to find in it. Once you understand what each side was looking for, the outrage becomes entirely predictable. Here is what those 22 pages actually contain. The file was released by the United Cajun Navy, a volunteer search and recovery group, not a government agency, who assisted in the search for Nolan Wells on Horn Island. TMZ broke the story on August 3rd, and local outlets like Fox picked it up shortly after. The group says they handed the file directly to the Jackson County District Attorney, the Sheriff's Office, and Nolan's parents, Christine and Elmore Wansley. But pay close attention to how the organization describes its own work, because they made sure to frame the narrative before anyone else could.
Becker from the New York Post correctly that photo where the boats are named Boat 1, Boat 2, Boat 3, and Boat X, is that from you guys, the United Cajun Navy?
First of all, I want to thank you for calling this report what it is, and it's a timeline. And some people have called it an investigative report, and that's not accurate because, as you know, we're not investigators. And what we did, Nancy, was we asked our followers, say, hey, if anybody was there that day, you have pictures, videos, whatever, send it to us just so we can go through it, see if there's anything relevant. We took all that information and compiled it into just one digestible report of things we thought were relevant and could be helpful. Maybe they're not. Maybe law enforcement's already seen all this and it's nothing new to them. But we just wanted to be transparent about what we received. So going back to your question, the pictures that we received, we did not, as an organization, take any of these photographs. These are all images that we received from people who were trying to help us out and trying to help Nolan's family out.
So you asked the public for help, and you got it. You got a treasure trove of photos, and I find this one significant. Guys, we've got an all-star panel, and I would like the all-star panel to look at their screens, because I've talked about this before, Brian Trasher, and I'm frankly fed up with attacks on the United Cajun Navy. They're doing something, which is more than all of the haters can say. They're doing something. They have amassed evidence. They have created a timeline to the best of their ability. They have shared it with us, unlike the autopsy that is complete and is being kept secret from us. That said, they're helping. Why trash them? That's, I'm not a shrink. I can't answer that. Let's look at this photo and determine what, if anything, we can discern. Brian, you and I have talked many, many times, and I told you about a serial killer I finally convicted on one case. The jury convicted him. And I proved a lot because of one earring I found in a particular location. The victim was wearing an earring, and the other earring had been sliced out of her ear, and I found it somewhere else, and I learned a lot because of where it was. Now, don't even bother to tell me that this photo that you have produced is not probative of something. The cluster of boats. Number one, I see a lot of witnesses. Trasher, do we know what time this photo was taken?
We don't know definitively times on all these because even though they're time stamped, it could be a time when it was screenshotted, stamped, not necessarily the original photograph. So we were very careful to denote that in our report that we can't verify timelines, although based on shadows and positions and things like that, we can determine that some of these, as noted, are taken in the late afternoon. One of the things I thought was interesting about some of these photos we got, Nancy, was that a lot of the photos we had seen before were people like in waist deep water. Well, some of the photos we provided show people up, water up to their chest, almost to their neck, and that's not really wading. That's treading water, in my opinion, and that I thought might have been significant to know that many people were, perhaps enjoying some libations, but also in water that might have been a little too deep just to be playing in.
Good point. You also said something else really smart, and I certainly do not want to rely on this, but sometimes You have to, you take the evidence as you find it and you make the most of what you've got. You said you could tell this was late in the afternoon because of the shadowing. I wonder if the tide could tell me anything because how high up the water is. But these people holding drinks, they're not treading water, Trasher. They're standing there. These people are not treading water, and the water is up to their armpits. Is that the photo you're talking about as to where you think some of them are treading water, or are there other photos?
The photo at the top, yeah, you're right. It's about up to their armpit. I think there was one later in the report that that showed some of the kids. This was a screenshot of a social media post, and there's 3 boats visible, one fourth boat further in the distance, but a lot of kids on one boat. I say kids, young people on one boat, some on the boat, some in the water. And some of them, it looks, maybe up to the armpit, but some of them, depending on their own height, it looks like it's, I could see a girl holding something in her hand and the water looks to be pretty close to her neck. So that's pretty far out. Now, we've said several times that Horn Island has a very aggressive slope. So you can be in shallow water and deep water within just a few steps. And once you get into that deep water, you're not as able to keep your feet on the ground if a current comes and pulls you, or God forbid a riptide comes and drags you. So that's why we thought it was significant to know that they were socializing in fairly deep water.
Can we go back to the main photo where the boats are numbered 1, 2, 3, X? Isn't it true, Brian Trasher, that these boats are easily identifiable by I call it a tail number, like you would a plane? Every boat has to be registered or supposed to be registered. It has a number on it. It often has a name like Triton. One was named Mac Daddy. There were other names. They're registered, and you know who the owner is, and the owner can tell us who was on the boat that day. Is that correct?
Theoretically, yeah. If you can make out the registration number or the name of the boat, if the vessel's name is registered, along with the registration number. Usually that's sometimes only on a Coast Guard document, but sometimes on a state registration you do put the vehicle, the boat name if it's asked for, or if you have one. So that is all possible. I'm told, and we're asked to compare notes with the sheriff's office, which we're doing. But I was told that there's been a lot of people that have been contacted and interviewed, and there's a lot of people who were there that day that voluntarily came forward to tell what they know, and because they might have seen their boats and pictures, said, "Oh, we might want to go ahead and call them, let them know, where we were, who was with us, and what we know." So I commend those people for coming forward, because it's not always easy.
That was Brian Thrasher, Vice President of the United Cajun Navy, and he's doing something rare for a headline-grabbing case: managing expectations. He clarifies that this file isn't an investigation. It's a crowd-sourced compilation. After asking the public for any media from Horn Island on July 4th, they took the submissions, organized them, added coordinates where possible, and published the report. But here's the kicker. They didn't take a single one of those photos themselves. Every image came from third-party phones and social media uploads. That fact alone explains nearly every flaw or gap in the file. Remember that. We'll revisit it shortly. If you want more content focused on actual documents instead of commentary on commentary, consider subscribing. Now, let's dig in. The key image driving the coverage shows several boats anchored together. The report labels them as Boat #1, Boat #2, Boat #3, Boat X, the Palm Beach, and the Triton, the boat Nolan was on. Here's how national television interpreted that image.
Them to like Google Earth and satellite pictures of the island to try to determine exactly where they were. We looked at the initial coordinates called out from the I think from the Coast Guard or from Marine Patrol when the missing persons report first went out, and basically just try to run these pictures against each other to say, okay, this boat's here now, it's not here later. And again, just create an index. We had to use some software to help us create the index of the pictures and make sure we put it into the best timeline we could. We included social media posts that, may or may not have been definitive, but this was happening in real time. So we thought it was important to put those up there to create context. And so again, just trying to, our goal was to take what we've received, put it into a digestible format that just about anybody could understand, hopefully. And if it's helpful, great. If it's not, then I don't think, no harm, no foul, you know.
To Dave Mack, Crime Stories investigative reporter, based on this timeline, and it may be refined as the days go forward, how does it shift the timeline? Because there is a group of people fighting at 5 p.m. Who are they? The friends say they leave at 4:31. That should be able to be verified through GPS. 5 p.m. Nolan, according to them, is still at Horn Island. Is he? Because by 7:30, witness states Nolan nowhere in sight. So where was he? He wasn't floating in the water. He wasn't on the shore. If he had, hold on, Dave, to Joe Scott Morgan, if he had drowned, wouldn't he be floating in the water?
Perhaps. I've seen bodies in the immediate that will go directly to the bottom. And there are those that do in fact float. So a lot of it is going to depend upon the temperature of the water many times. A lot of it's going to depend upon, is there anything else out there that could, let's see, how can I put this, that could in fact impede the body's ability to float to the top, like beneath a boat. And as you can see, there are a lot of boats out there. So if in fact that had occurred, you can actually have bodies that will be caught beneath other vessels. I've worked cases like that where they were looking around for someone, and they couldn't find them because the whole area was surrounded by vessels. And so there are a lot of elements that go in.
To be fair, that argument holds weight. When you have multiple vessels clustered together with people aboard and in the water, the crowd in that cove during the relevant window is significant. Every single person out there is a potential eyewitness. Caitlin Becker from the New York Post puts it best. While the boats are identified and people are clearly visible, the timeline is missing. We don't know the exact timestamp of the photo, nor do we know where Nolan was relative to the camera when it was snapped. That missing timestamp isn't a small oversight. It's the central flaw of the entire document, and it's a problem we're going to keep running into. With that said, let's turn to the opposing interpretation.
I will never, ever, ever begrudge Black folks and folks of color for saying they do not trust white people. And a terribly upsetting example of that is what happened in Nolan Wells. He spent 4th of July weekend with 3 of his friends who he thought were friends, and they are white. He is Black. And Nolan Wells died. We don't know what happened. I'm not going to speculate. That doesn't do anything for anybody. But we as white people have not given people of color, especially Black folks in America, any reasons to trust us as a collective group of people. Full stop. And if you are a white person and you are bothered when Black folks say they don't trust white people, think of this moment. Think of the unfortunately countless other moments in American history where white people have been instigators of violent crimes against Black people. Because whether you like it or not, that is American history. It is. And you can't escape it. But we can do something to change it. And that starts with every one of us white people interrogating the white supremacist ideologies that we were raised with and our society was built upon, and it is our job to undo it.
I know that certain white people, men specifically, people that are conservative, people that are able to think differently than whatever the mass media is trying to program you to think, whatever they trying to program y'all to think on social media. I know y'all are sick of liberal white women apologists, because on one hand, she says that she's not going to speculate. She doesn't have an opinion yet. But at the same time, they up here calling for justice, and they don't even know what the cause of death is. As of the recording of this video, right? Nobody knows exactly what happened. There's an active investigation going on, but we're so focused on racism and trying to make everything a black versus white conversation, right? We're so focused on trying to make everything a liberal talking point. We're so focused on trying to make sure that everybody understands that you, as a white woman, you're not a racist. You're not one of them. We don't understand. We have to use our privilege in order to try to feel some type of emotion or find some kind of justice or interrogate everybody. And I'm telling you, bro, it's these liberal white apologists and the culture is the ones that keep making everything a race issue.
These kids hadn't been threatened and lied on. And why do you say lied on, Brandon? They have shown me evidence. I have seen and verified evidence. There is Life 360 evidence. There is CETO call evidence that proves what they're saying and that people have been lying about them so long that they need to take legal action against people. These boys had not been lied on and threatened in front of me. I saw threats coming in. But the fact that they now got to sue people and Nolan Wells' family and attorney is prepping to sue them with no information of what happened to Nolan, whether he was killed or he drowned. They don't even care. They're trying to make money, so they're going to sue these boys. Then I wouldn't even support this. If these boys were black and you got white folk out here claiming they didn't kill somebody with no evidence, only because they're black, put the GoFundMe up there. Here's a glimpse of some of the things that they're getting as hate mail.
Don't try and run now, you. Your son is a piece of shit, and he's about to get all the way up. Don't run now, you. Use a punk just like your son. You guys are gonna get what the coming to you. I know he killed that little kid, man. You guys aren't. Your wife ain't. All you racist pieces of shit. All you.
All right, next one.
You and your folks think y'all ass so smart, so slick. All this other your son gonna get the worst of it, and he know it. Your sons and them gonna disable their account and all this other Bruce style. Your scared to answer their phone cause you know what's going on, and ain't nobody scared of y'all white ass to be worried about that boy. Cause I promise you something gonna happen to you. And you might wanna go and block me, cause I swear to God I'm gonna call you up on every day until they come clean.
Do you know how hateful and racist these people are to come call somebody and say that to them? They deactivate their accounts because they're getting threatened like this. They deactivate their account because y'all fools calling them and want to talk about you gonna kill them because they get accused of murder. They're being accused of murder. Y'all, they didn't go to the funeral because y'all threatened to kill them.
Strip the heat off the temperature down
and his position
look
is
at what he's actually arguing.
The document identifies a hole in the timeline.
The document points out a gap in the timeline.
There is no image in it that shows Nolan. There is no time in it that is confirmed. There is no cause named and no responsibility assigned.
Nobody is named as a cause.
So nothing moved.
And nobody is assigned blame.
And here's the part that is going to be uncomfortable for people who wanted this to be a clean fight. On the question he is asking, he is mostly right. The report does not determine how Nolan Wells died. It does not assign responsibility to any person. There is no photograph in it that places him at a confirmed location at a confirmed time.
There's no image in it placing him somewhere specific.
If your question is, does this tell us what happened? The document itself answers no. Repeatedly,
if the question
in
is,
writing.
does this tell us
where he
what
goes
happened?
wrong is in calling that a failure.
The document itself keeps
because nobody claimed
no
otherwise.
In its own writing.
Trasher said it into a camera before the criticism even started.
As a failure
it is a compilation,
no one ever claimed
not a conclusion.
It was anything else.
Judging it for failing to solve the case is like opening a phone book and complaining nobody called you.
This
so let
is
us actually go through it,
not
because this is the part almost
Faulting
nobody
it
covered.
for not solving the case.
The report opens
like
by setting its own terms.
And being
rather
annoyed,
than force a conclusion, it says the useful move is to sort every piece of supplied material into categories.
Almost no one covered.
What is visually documented?
Starts by
what is
laying out
reported
its
by a
own
witness?
Instead
what is
of
only
forcing
annotated by a secondary source?
It proposes sorting every
and what
piece
simply
of
remains
submitted material
unknown.
into buckets.
That is not a dramatic
what's
framework.
Visually documented,
it is a filing
what's
system.
Witness reported,
and it is exactly why the file reads as flat to anyone who opened it expecting a reveal. Then come the findings. And nearly every one of them is a statement about a limit.
And that's exactly
Take
why
the
the
departure
document
time.
feels flat.
The Triton is stated to have left the island at 4:31 in the afternoon.
From there, The findings
report
roll
says
in,
that time has
and
not been
almost every one
verified
of
through
them is really a
GPS,
statement
through
about a
engine
limitation.
data, or through
Take
any
the
other
departure
electronic
time.
record.
The Triton
It is
is
a stated
recorded as
time,
leaving the
not a
island at
confirmed one.
4:31 p.m.
That distinction has
But
been
the report
collapsed in
notes
almost every
that time was
retelling of
never
this case,
confirmed through GPS,
including by people who should
engine
know
logs,
better.
or
Take
any
the
other
video.
electronic trail.
2 supplied screen
It's a stated
recordings show
time,
phone
not a
interface
verified
clocks
one.
reading approximately
That distinction
3:23
keeps getting
and
flattened in nearly
4:27.
every retelling,
And the report goes out of
including
its
by
way to
people who
warn you
ought to
about
know
them.
better.
Because those
Take
are
the video
clocks
clips.
visible inside
2
captured
submitted
social
screen
media
recordings
content, it
show
says.
phone clocks
They should be
reading
treated as
roughly
timing
3:23
indicators
and
and not
4:27.
automatically as verified
The
original
report
camera
flags these
timestamps.
specifically
Read that
because
again
they're
slowly.
timestamps visible on a phone
Somebody
screen
filmed their own
inside
screen while a video
reshared social
played.
content.
The clock you can
and it
see
says
is the
they should
clock
be
on the
read
phone
as
doing
rough
the
timing
filming.
cues.
That is not the same
confirmed
thing as knowing
original
when the
camera
original was
timestamps.
shot. And
Read
there is a
that
detail
twice.
underneath that one
Someone
which nobody
filmed their
picked
own
up at all.
screen while
The
a
report
video
notes
played
that the
back.
container metadata
The
on
clock
5
you
of the
see
supplied video
belongs to the
files
phone doing the
shows
filming,
creation and
not
export dates
necessarily
in
the
late
moment
July.
the original footage
Then it
was
tells you
captured.
plainly what that
There's
means.
a related detail
Those dates
nobody
describe
picked
the
up on at
supplied
all.
digital files.
The report notes
They do
that
not
file
describe the
metadata
July 4th
on
events
5
inside
submitted
them.
videos
What the
shows
organization
creation
received were
and
copies of
export dates
copies,
in late July.
reposts of
and
reposts,
it spells out what that means.
which is precisely
Those
why the
dates
entire
describe
back
when
end
the
of this
files were
document is
saved or
one long
exported,
request for
not
originals.
when the July 4th
Take the
events
boat
actually
movements.
happened.
The report
What the
documents that
organization
vessel
got
positions
were
changed.
copies of copies,
Frontier Bay and boat
reposts of
#2
reposts,
are not
which
where
is
they were
exactly
in an
why
earlier
so much
frame.
of the document
A later
is one
photograph
long
gives a
ask for
checkpoint after
original
the stated
files.
departure. But
Take
it
the
states
boat
it cannot
movements.
establish when
The
they
report
moved,
confirms
where they
that
went,
vessel
who
positions
was aboard,
shifted.
or whether any
Frontier
of it
Bay
connects
and
to
Boat
Nolan
2
at all.
aren't where they were
And
in
then
an
there is the
earlier frame.
geospatial section,
A later photo
which is the most
shows a
technical part of the
location check
file
after the
and the
stated
part that got the
departure
least
time.
attention.
But the
and
report
honestly,
is up
that is a
front
shame,
that it can't
because it is the
establish when
most
the boats
disciplined
moved,
work in the document.
where they went,
They take
who
the
was on
search
board,
datum from official
or whether
correspondence.
any of it connects to
They
Nolan
convert
at
it from
all.
degrees and minutes
Then
into
there's the
decimal
geospatial
coordinates.
section,
They compare
the
it
most
against a
technical
separately
part of the
supplied
file,
map pin
and the part
find
that
the
got
two
the least
sit roughly a
attention,
meter and a
which
half
is a shame,
apart, which
because
they
it's
treat
the
as
most
the same
careful piece of
location
work
within
in the
normal
whole
GPS
document.
precision.
They take
A
search
second
coordinates
supplied
from official
coordinate sits about
correspondence,
279
convert them
meters
from
off,
degrees/minutes
and rather than build a
into
theory on
decimal
it,
form,
they write
and
that the
compare
material
them to
does
a
not
separately
establish what
submitted
event
map
that
pin.
second point
The
represents.
two land about a meter
That is
and a
careful
half
work.
apart,
It
which
is
they
also
treat as
completely
effectively the same
undramatic,
location,
which is
given
exactly
normal
why it
GPS
never made a
precision.
single broadcast.
A second coordinate
Now,
lands
the
roughly
gap.
279
Because everything in
meters
this
away,
file orbits
and
one
instead
interval.
of spinning a theory
Nolan's
out
last
of that,
independently
they simply
corroborated
write that
sighting
the
sits in the
material
mid-afternoon.
doesn't establish what that
Warren
second
Hudson,
point
who
represents.
was on the island with him,
That's
has said
disciplined
publicly
work.
in an interview
It's
on the
also
Officer Tatum show
completely
that
undramatic,
around 3 in the
which is
afternoon
why
was
it
the
never
last
made
time
it
he
into a
personally
single
laid eyes on him.
broadcast.
The Triton
Now,
is stated to
the
have
gap,
left at 4:31
because everything in
after
this
taking
file
on water
circles
without
one
him aboard.
window of time.
And then the record
Nolan's
thins out
last
badly.
independently
There is a
corroborated
social media
sighting
statement
is
placing
in
a
the
group
mid-afternoon.
described as almost fighting
Warren
at around
Hudson,
5 in the
who
afternoon,
was with him on the island,
and saying a
has
Bertram
said publicly
with a blue top
in an
pulled out
interview on
shortly
the Officer
after,
Tatum show
moving fast.
that around 3
The
p.m.
report includes
was
it.
the last
It
time
also
he
includes the
personally saw
reply
him.
that disputes it
The Triton
from someone
reportedly
saying
left
the
at
person
4:31
involved was not Nolan.
after taking on
the
water
report does not
without
resolve
Nolan
that.
aboard.
It flags it
After
and
that,
leaves it standing.
the record gets
and that
thin
is the
fast.
correct call, even though
There's
it is
a social media
unsatisfying,
post describing
because
a
a
group
contested account
almost
cannot be
fighting
nailed down as a
around
fixed
5
point
p.m.
on a timeline.
and mentioning a
You cannot
Bertram
build
with a
on
blue
ground
top
that is still moving.
pulling out shortly
Then
after,
comes the
moving
7:30
quickly.
observation.
The report
and this is
includes
where a
it,
lot of online
and it also
coverage has
includes a
gone
reply
sideways.
disputing it
A woman
from
named
someone
Caitlin
saying the
Brochard,
person
who
involved
was on the
wasn't
island
Nolan.
that day,
The report
photographed
doesn't
the vessels
resolve that conflict.
and stated that Nolan sun was nowhere in sight when her group left around 7:30 in the evening.
Even if it's unsatisfying.
Now read that the way the report
because a
reads
disputed
it.
account
That is a statement about visibility. It is not a statement about location. Not being seen in one area by
then
one
comes
group
the 7:30
at one
PM
moment is not the same as not
and
being
this
on
is
the
where
island.
a lot of the online
Those are two
coverage
very
went
different
off the
claims,
rails.
and only one of them was actually made.
Who was on
the
the
document
island that
treats
day,
it exactly
photographed the
right.
boats
A reported
and
observation,
said Nolan wasn't
not a
visible
confirmed sighting,
when her group
and not a
left
confirmed
around
absence.
7:30 that evening.
Nolan Wells was recovered
Read
from
that
the water
way the report
just off
reads
Horn
it.
Island
That's
on
a
the morning of
statement
July
about
6th.
visibility,
Between
not
the mid-afternoon and the evening of July
location.
4th, the public record
Not
has a
being
hole
seen
in it.
by one group
That is the finding.
in one spot
That is the whole
at
finding.
one moment.
Everything
isn't the
else in
same as
22
not being on
pages
the
is the work
island
of
at
describing
all.
the edges of
Those
that
are
hole
two
as
different
precisely as
claims,
possible.
and only one of
If
them
there is
was
a section
actually
of this
made.
file you want
The
pulled
document
apart in more
handles it
detail,
correctly.
say so in
a
the
reported
comments.
observation,
We do read them,
not a confirmed
and they shape
sighting,
what gets made next.
and not a confirmed
so
absence.
who was right about the document?
Nolan
Both of
Wells
them.
was found in the water
About
near
different
Horn
questions.
Island on the morning of
The commentator
July 6th.
asked whether it tells us
Between
what happened to
mid-afternoon
Nolan
and
Wells.
evening on July 4th,
Correct answer,
there's a
no.
hole in the public
The
record.
broadcast asked whether
That's
it
the
helps
actual
identify
finding.
who might be able
That's
to tell
the whole
us.
finding.
Correct answer,
Everything else across
yes.
the 22 pages
Those are not the same
is spent
question.
mapping the edges
And this
of that
document
hole
was only
as
ever
precisely
engineered
as
to
the
answer the
material
second
allows.
one. Look
If
at what it
there's a section you
recommends
want
and the
broken
design
down
becomes
further,
obvious.
say so in the
Get
comments.
the original
We
videos
do read
instead of the
them,
reposts.
and they shape what we
Get
cover
phone
next.
and location data.
So who was
Get
right?
vessel GPS
Both
and
of
engine
them,
records.
about different
Get a complete
questions.
passenger
The
roster for
commentator
every boat
asked whether
anchored
the
in that
document
cove.
tells us what happened
Nobody
to
who
Nolan
thinks they have
Wells.
solved something writes
Answer,
that list.
No.
That
The
is a
broadcast
document
asked
telling
whether it helps
investigators which doors
identify
are
who
still
might be able
shut
to tell
and
us.
exactly which keys
Answer,
open them.
yes.
Brian Fitzgibbons
Those
of
aren't the
USPA
same
Nationwide
question.
Security
And this
on the same
document was only
broadcast
ever built
put
to
it in the
answer the
cleanest
second
terms
one.
anyone managed.
Look at its
The
recommendations.
value is in providing
and the
a
intent
framework to
becomes
build an
obvious.
investigation off
Get the
of,
original
not the
videos
answer.
instead of reposts.
The scaffolding you
Get
need
phone
before
and
an answer
location
is even
data.
possible.
Get vessel
And he
GPS
raised
and
one more
engine
thing
logs.
that deserves
Get a
more
full
attention than
passenger
it
list
got.
for every boat
Nobody on
anchored
that
in
island
cove.
knew they were a witness
Nobody
at the
who
time.
believes they've solved
There was no
something
gunshot,
writes a list
no
like
explosion,
That's
no
a
moment
document
that told
telling
200 people to
investigators
look up and
exactly
start
which
remembering.
doors are still
It was a
locked
holiday,
and which keys
people were in the
open them.
water with drinks in their
Brian
hands.
Fitzgibbon,
Nobody was
from
checking
USA
a watch
Nationwide
because there was
Security,
nothing yet
put
to
it
check
about
it
as
against.
cleanly as anyone
So when
on that
accounts
broadcast.
conflict on
The
timing,
value here
that is not
is in
evidence
giving
of a cover-up.
investigators a framework
That is
to
evidence
build
of
on,
memory
not
working
an
the way
answer.
memory works.
It's the
And
scaffolding
Fitzgibbons
you
made the
need
sharper
before
point,
an answer is even
the one that
possible.
should stay with you.
He raised
If every
something
single
else that
account
deserves
matched
more
perfectly,
attention than it got.
same times,
Nobody on
same
that
sequence,
island knew
same
in
phrasing,
the moment
that would be
they
the
were a
thing worth
witness
being
to
suspicious
anything.
about.
There was
Here
no
is
gunshot,
where all of this leaves
no
us.
explosion,
A volunteer
no single
organization
moment that
asked
made
the public
200
for help,
people look up
got
and
buried
start
in
memorizing
material,
details.
and published what it had,
It was a holiday.
along with an honest
People were in
account
the
of
water
everything
with
that
drinks in
material
hand.
cannot prove.
Nobody was checking
It is
the
now in
time
the hands of the
because there was
district
nothing
attorney,
yet worth
the
checking
sheriff's
it
office,
against.
and the family.
So when accounts don't line
the
up
family
on
has
timing,
retained attorney
that's
Ben
not
Crump,
proof of a
whose
cover-up.
team is running an
It's
independent
just how
review.
memory actually
And there
works
is one
under
more
those
piece
conditions.
of context that makes this whole
And
thing land
Fitzgibbons
differently.
made the sharper
The
point,
information
the one
environment
worth
around this
holding on
case
to.
has already
If
produced
every account
fabricated
matched
material.
perfectly,
On
same
August
times,
1st,
same
Mississippi
sequence,
Department
same
of Public
wording.
Safety Commissioner
That would
Sean
be the detail
Tyndall
worth
publicly
being
addressed a
suspicious of.
purported toxicology
Here's where
report
it all
attributed to
lands.
Nolan Wells
A
and
volunteer
stated it was
organization
fraudulent.
asked the public
Sit
for
with
help,
that for a second.
got flooded with
Documents
material,
are already
and
being
published everything it
manufactured in
had
this
along
case
with an honest
and passed
breakdown
around
of what
as
that
real,
material can't
which means a
prove.
22-page
It's now
file
with the
that
district
repeatedly,
attorney, the
almost
sheriff's
stubbornly,
office, and the
tells you
family.
what it cannot
The family
prove
has
is
retained
worth
attorney Ben
considerably
Crump,
more than it
whose
first
team
looks,
is conducting its
not
own
less.
independent review.
In an environment full of confident
One more
answers,
thing changes
the
how
thing that
all of
admits
this
its
should
own
land.
limits is the
The
rarer
information
object.
environment around
the
this
gap between
case
the
has
afternoon
already
and the
produced
evening of
fake
July
material.
4th is still open.
On August 1st,
Closing it will take
Mississippi
original
Department
files,
of Public
device
Safety
data,
Commissioner Sean
vessel
Tyndall
records, and a
publicly
full
addressed
accounting
a
of who was
supposed
in that
toxicology
cove.
report
Until those
attributed
exist
to
in the
Nolan
public
Wells,
record,
and
everything
said it was
else,
fraudulent.
from the broadcasts to
Sit
the
with
live
that for a
streams to this
second.
video, is
Fabricated documents
interpretation.
are already
We
circulating
will keep
in
following the
this case,
source material
passed
as it
around
comes.
as real.
If you want
which
the
means
next
a
one when it drops,
22-page report
subscribe
that
and turn
keeps
notifications
almost
on.
stubbornly
Thanks for
telling you
being
what
here.
it can't prove is worth more than it looks at first glance, not less. In an environment full of confident answers, the document that admits its own limits is the unusual one. The gap between afternoon and evening on July 4th is still open. Closing it will take original files, device data, vessel records, and a complete accounting of who was actually in that cove. Until that exists in the public record, everything else, the broadcasts, the live streams, this video, is interpretation. We'll keep following the source material as it develops. If you want the next update when it drops, subscribe and turn on notifications. Thanks for being here.